Hello, and a very warm welcome to this webinar, Making the Most of Voluntary Redundancy. My name is Gillian and I work for Skills Development Scotland, SDS, Scotland's skills agency and career service. This session will give you information and advice about all the things you need to consider if you find yourself in a voluntary redundancy situation. We'll let you know about all the ways that SDS and other organisations can help you decide if voluntary redundancy is right for you. If you do take voluntary redundancy, also known as voluntary severance, there's a range of support available to help you move on quickly and easily, which we will outline during this webinar. So, choosing voluntary redundancy. Well, your employer might ask if anyone wants to take voluntary redundancy. You should think carefully about whether voluntary redundancy is right for you, including whether you'll get any redundancy pay and how it will affect things like claiming benefits or your mortgage. If you volunteer, it's up to your employer if they select you for redundancy. If you're in a union member, then there might be extra support available from them. Making sure voluntary redundancy is right for you means that you should think carefully about how voluntary redundancy will affect any money you're entitled to. So check the redundancy offer. Ask your employer what the redundancy package will be. Sometimes employers offer incentives for taking voluntary redundancy, like extra redundancy pay or not having to work your notice period. You'll also get any other redundancy rights you're entitled to, like time off to look for a new job. Gov.uk has more information on redundancy rights. ACAS also has a range of independent information about your rights and entitlements. In terms of claiming benefits, you might be able to claim benefits like universal credit after taking voluntary redundancy, so check what benefits you might be entitled to. And benefit checkers and benefit calculators can help with this. If you have a mortgage protection policy, you should check your mortgage protection policy to see what it says about voluntary redundancy. Voluntary redundancy is usually excluded, meaning that they won't pay your mortgage payments after your redundancy. You can ask to be made compulsorily redundant instead, so contact your nearest citizen's advice if you need help speaking to your employer or understanding your options. So, planning for after redundancy, well, it can be helpful to put some plans in place for after you take voluntary redundancy, and we'll cover some of the key things to think about. We're going to look at each of these areas on the slide in turn. So we're going to look more on benefits, on budgeting, on managing stress, and planning your next steps, looking for a new job, training and signposting. And we're just going to go through each of these in turn. So benefits you could get. Well, if you've lost your job, including through voluntary redundancy, you might be able to get New Style Job Seekers Allowance, JSA, if you're under state pension age, unemployed, or are working less than 16 hours a week on average, and have made enough national insurance contributions, usually over the last 2 to 3 years. Your savings and partner's income will not affect how much you get. New Style Employment and Support Allowance, ESA, if you're under state pension age, have a disability or health condition that affects how much you can work, and have made enough national insurance contributions, usually over the last 2 to 3 years. Your savings and your partner's income again will not affect how much you get. And universal credit, if you or your partner are under state pension age and you have £16,000 or less in savings, you might be able to get it at the same time as New Style GSA or New Style ESA. And pension credit if both you and your partner have reached state pension age, or one of you is getting housing benefit for people over state pension age. Now, you might also be able to get further help if you're disabled or caring for someone or looking after a family. But you can get help on finding and understanding information about benefits from Citizens Advice and Money Helper. And you could also use a benefits calculator from an independent organisation, but there'll be more about this in the next slide. Okay, so use an independent benefits calculator to find out what benefits you could get, how to claim, and how your benefits will be affected if you start work. Now, these are free to use, they're anonymous, and they've replaced the Benefits Advisor service. So, you could use one of the following. Policy in practice for information on income-related benefits, tax credits, contribution-based benefits, council tax reduction, carers allowance, universal credit, and how these are calculated and how your benefits will be affected if you start work or change your working hours. Entitled 2 is one that you could use for information on income-related benefits, tax credits, contribution-based benefits, council tax reduction, carers allowance, universal credit, and how your benefits will be affected if you start work. And there's Turn to Us for information on income-related benefits, tax credits, council tax reduction, carers allowance, universal credit, and how your benefits again will be affected if you start work or change your working hours. So what will you need to use these then? Well, accurate information about your savings, your income, including your partner's, from payslips, for example, existing benefits and pensions, including anyone living with you, outgoings, things such as rent, mortgage, childcare payments, and council tax bill. So we're now just going to show a short video from Money Helper, which hopefully explains more. I hope you found that helpful. We're now going to move on and talk a bit about stress busters. Okay, any change, of course, can be stressful, and changing job, even if you've chosen to take voluntary severance, can be a major cause of stress. Now, we have 10 ways to help you deal with stress thanks to the NHS Inform website, where you'll find lots of other tips and techniques to help you with your mental well-being. Professor Kerry Cooper is an occupational health expert at the University of Lancaster, and he says not taking control of the situation and doing nothing will only make your problems worse. He says the keys to good stress management are building emotional strength, being in control of your situation, having a good social network, and adopting a positive outlook. And these are Professor Cooper's top 10 stress busting suggestions. And I'm just going to go through each of these. So he says, be active. Exercise won't make your stress disappear, but it will help you keep clear your thoughts and let you deal with your problems more calmly. Take control. Thinking I can't do anything about my problem can make your stress worse. So the act of taking control can ease stress and increase well-being. Connecting with people. Well, a good support network of colleagues, friends, and family can help you see things in a different way. And the activities that we do with friends help us relax. We often have a good laugh with them, which is an excellent stress reliever. Talking things through with a friend will also help you find solutions to your problems. Now, have some me time. Here in the UK, we work the longest hours in Europe, meaning we often don't spend enough time doing things we really enjoy. So it's really worth taking time to do things that you enjoy. He also suggests challenge yourself, set yourself goals and challenges, whether at work or outside, such as learning a new language or a new sport. It all helps to build confidence. And this will help you to deal with stress. The professor says by continuing to learn, you become more emotionally resilient as a person. It arms you with knowledge and makes you want to do things rather than be passive, such as watching TV all the time. He also talks about avoiding unhealthy habits. So, not relying on alcohol, smoking, and caffeine as your ways of coping. The professor says that men are more likely than women to do this. We call it avoidance behaviour, he says. He notes that women are actually better at seeking support from their social circle. And over the long term, these crutches won't solve your problems, they'll just create new ones. He talks about it's like putting your head in the sand. It might provide temporary relief, but it won't make the problems disappear. You need to tackle the cause of your stress. And he suggests that helping other people is another great stress buster. Evidence shows that people who help others through activities such as volunteering or community work become more resilient. Helping people who are often in situations worse than yours will help you put your problems into perspective. Professor Cooper says the more that you give, the more resilient and happy you feel. And if you don't have time to volunteer, then try to do someone a favour every day. And it can be something as small as helping someone to cross road. We often hear work smarter, not harder. Well, working smarter means prioritising your work, concentrating on the tasks that will make a real difference. And this could be spending time ensuring your CV is up to date or researching the best way to tackle job interviews. Leave the least important tasks to last, says Cooper. And try to be positive. Look at the positives in life and things for which we should be grateful. He suggests that writing down 3 things that went well or for which you were grateful for at the end of every day. Another point he makes is accept the things that you just can't change. Changing a difficult situation isn't always possible. So try to concentrate on the things that you do have control over. If your company is going under and is making redundancies, there's just nothing you can do about that, says Professor Cooper. In a situation like that, you need to focus on the things that you can control, such as looking for a new job. So try our Facing Change, Embracing Change webinar for more on dealing positively with change in your work and life. And if you've got your phone handy, you could scan the QR code on the slide for access to Public Health Scotland's guide to dealing with stress. So just give you a wee moment to make a note of our website where you can get links to the webinars and the Steps for Stress audio guide on the QR code. Okay, so the next slide, once you've been made redundant. Well, your employer will select the people to be made redundant from everyone who volunteered. It's up to your employer if they select you for redundancy. Just because you volunteered to be made redundant doesn't mean that you will be. But if you're selected for redundancy, it's important that you get a letter from your employer confirming you've been made redundant. You'll need to show this letter to an employment tribunal later if there's any problems. For example, if your employer doesn't pay your redundancy pay. You'll still get any redundancy rights you're entitled to, like time off to look for a new job, and you might also be able to negotiate your notice period with your employer. When we think about options, we think about what's available to you overall, and this will include things you already know about, but also perhaps things that you're yet to discover. And we're going to help you explore what is right for you. So what do you want to do? Well, for some of us, staying in the same area of work is the easiest option, as we tend to have the skills, the experience and qualifications to allow us to do this. But also the paths for progression are clearer. However, this option may not always be possible as working practices change and technology brings other changes to certain types of work, while other industries disappear altogether. So a move to a different type of work can be an unhappy necessity or a welcome opportunity. Traditionally, we may have thought about one option at a time, but increasingly we might want to look at some of these concurrently. And this is sometimes known as portfolio working. Other things that you might want to do are consider learning and training. We'll talk a bit more about that shortly, and starting your own business. Maybe voluntary work might be something that interests you too. And even retirement doesn't necessarily mean leaving the world of work altogether. We're living longer and there are always opportunities to carry on, though perhaps working less hours, being active in your local community, taking up learning. And how do you choose what's right for you? Well, understanding yourself and what motivates you is an important part of career decision making. It's also important to consider the jobs and the training that's available to you. And we're going to look at some of these options now in a bit more detail. Okay, so on the slide there, you can see our webinar program. And if you're looking to move back into work, the Positive Steps to Your Future Handbook, that's that turquoise document there on the screen, is a great resource. And our interactive and informative webinar series is based on the 6 sections of that handbook. So you can build up your portfolio of career management and employability skills by attending each of the 6 webinars in our series, Positive Steps to Your Future, 6 Steps to Career Success. They're designed to work as a series of 6, but you can access as many as you like and in any order. Register and sign up for any or all of our webinars, and there's live or pre-recorded, simply by visiting the webinar page at careers.myworldofwork.co.uk. And you'll also find lots of other really useful information and tools to help you on that site. Other things we can do to support you is our one-to-one guidance. And one-to-one guidance, whether it's over the phone via our helpline or face-to-face in one of our centres, is an opportunity to discuss your ideas, your options, your next steps with a fully qualified, impartial careers advisor who will help you develop your career management skills so that you're able to recognise your skills, your strengths and expertise, because quite often we're maybe overly modest when it comes to these matters. We can help you to think about what you might want from work and what opportunities exist out there. They'll help you to identify jobs and careers that might suit you, understand the labour market, where there's skill shortages, where there's replacement demand requirements and so forth, and pinpoint your learning and training needs and sources of funding, as well as reviewing things like your CV and helping you to prepare for interview. So there's a lot that can be accomplished through one-to-one career guidance. So we suggest that you would phone our free helpline on 0800 917 8000. We're open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Or you could scan the QR code there on the screen to arrange an appointment, or pop into our local centres. When we've got a career decision to make, sometimes we can limit ourselves and make decisions based on what's familiar or what's available at the time. And sometimes we even let others make the decision for us and we just hope that it will work out. For so many of us, the pandemic changed the way we work. We saw a massive shift to home working, and we had to adapt to using technology, sometimes in ways we never experienced before. Previously, some of you maybe travelled great distances to meet a customer, and now you have a Teams or a Zooms call. So many of us have shown how versatile we can be and how we learned to do things differently. So can we now capitalise on that way of working? During this period, we also saw more flexible and remote working, and the geographical barriers associated with employment opportunities reduced. So now, as we recover from the pandemic, we're hearing more about the continuation of these flexible working models, hybrid models. So for some, the option to work partly in their place of work and partly from home is now possible. And because employees have shown that they can adapt successfully to working in different ways, this could result in new possibilities for future work. We're also seeing more advertising for blended jobs. For some of us, learning and training is worthy of consideration at this stage too, and taking the opportunity to learn something new. So it might be some upskilling where you're building on existing qualifications to enhance future employment prospects. Might be some reskillings required to learn new skills or gain a new qualification that could lead to a change of career. What is clear is that learning and training is increasingly flexible, and there are opportunities for beginners to advanced level, full-time, part-time, online, face-to-face. And the options might be vocational, job-related learning, or very academic. And where do you study? Well, it might be at a college or a university or a training provider or a community learning centre or in a library. There's so many possibilities. And of course, it could be that the learning is online, as is increasingly an opportunity for people. In terms of funding for learning and training, some of the possibilities include the individual training account, whereby you might be able to gain up to £200 towards a single course or training episode per year if you're unemployed or you're employed and earning less than 22,000. And Future Learn is a tremendous opportunity where you can access free online learning at www.careers.myworldofwork.co.uk. And there's literally hundreds, in fact, probably thousands of possibilities through the online learning courses. Apprenticeships include modern apprenticeships, graduate apprenticeships, and the Adopt an Apprenticeship scheme too. And all of that, more information can be found on our apprenticeships.scot website. And other funding includes things like Rapid Response Service through the DWP, and the Student Awards Agency Scotland is the organisation to approach regarding higher education funding and also the part-time fee grant. But if you have questions around any of this, then do phone the 0800 917 8000 number and we'll try to support you with this. Some of you might contemplate starting up your own business at this stage of your career, and you can get support from Business Gateway. They offer a range of online resources where you can find advice on essentials like writing a business plan, right through to things like intellectual property. They offer webinars and events which you can attend online and in person. So you can get in touch with them at 0300 134 4753. You can contact your local Business Gateway office or indeed use their website on the slide. Okay, so volunteering can help you and other people, and there's an enormous demand for volunteers, and some projects may offer training which can be valuable in itself and within the job market. You may learn new skills or gain confidence that could help you find paid work. And it can give you an interest and a focus in your life that you may miss while you're going through a period of change. There are certain occupational areas, such as social and caring professions, where it's especially useful to have gained voluntary experience before moving into paid employment. And of course, the benefits of volunteering, well, it's an opportunity to gain confidence. It can help you gain confidence by giving you the chance to try something new and build a real sense of achievement. Volunteering can have a real and valuable positive effect in people, communities, and society in general. So you can really feel that you are making a difference. And of course, it's a real opportunity to go out there and meet people. It can help you to meet different types of people, make new friends, and be part of a community. Feel part of something outside your friends and family. And a moment ago, we were talking about learning new skills. Well, volunteering can help you to do that, to learn new skills, gain experience, and sometimes even qualifications. And it can mean taking on a challenge. Through volunteering, you can challenge yourself to try something different, achieve personal goals, practice using your skills, and discover hidden talents, perhaps. And of course, it can be about having fun. And most volunteers will say they've had a great time, regardless of why they did it in the first place. Now, there's lots of ways to find out about these opportunities. So look for things that you'd like to do in your community in order to make a difference. Contact an organisation directly involved in a cause that you're interested in. Or Volunteer Scotland is an organisation that can help you get started. And their website is there, www.volunteerscotland.net. So taking early retirement. If you're close to retirement, your employer may suggest you take voluntary early retirement instead of voluntary redundancy. So you need to look carefully at the financial impact of each option, including how it will affect any occupational or personal pensions you have. In addition to Money Helper, we've mentioned that you can also access free impartial information and advice about your pension from pension-wise, and any benefits you might be entitled to, the redundancy package you're being offered, these sorts of things. So for more about pensions and money after retirement, you may also wish to speak to someone at Citizens Advice. Now, retirement is a period of life that people should look forward to as their own time to do what they want. However, it's important to prepare for retirement if you're to get the most out of it, as the adjustment from working life can be quite a shock for some people. So planning for retirement is more important today than it ever has been. Retirees are much healthier, they're much more active, and they can expect to live for much longer. It's a whole new phase of life and opportunity is opening up. In addition, the removal of the default retirement age means that the decision when to retire is now in your own hands. It's extremely important to understand the opportunity that retirement presents for you personally and to remove any concerns you may have to help you decide when you want to retire or partially retire. Otherwise, there's a danger that you'll continue working and miss the opportunity that retirement presents. And unlike other phases of life, when you retire, there are far fewer constraints. For most of our lives, we're constrained by the demands of school, career, and maybe children. And for the first time, we are faced with a period of maybe 25 to 30 years where we essentially write our own job description. And that requires careful thought and planning to avoid any pitfalls and to ensure that you make the most of it and enjoy a balanced retirement. A pre-retirement workshop can provide relevant information to get you thinking about what you need to do when exiting full-time employment and what happens next. And your employer may run these or put you in touch with a relevant organisation. Now, PACE, Partnership Action for Continuing Employment, supports everyone in Scotland in dealing with redundancy, whether it's compulsory or voluntary, and you'll find additional information in the PACE National Guide and the dedicated website redundancyscotland.co.uk. You can also call the helpline Monday to Friday between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. for further advice and information on the range of organisations that can support you. So I hope you found this useful and thank you very much for your time today. Goodbye.